Been working all day long and visiting places, a tight schedule. Welcome here. Is everybody okay here?
Yeah, I think. Okay. I just wanted to then, on behalf of the group, we're from different parts of the United States, in different professions. So and we're really glad to hear about this neighborhood and about learning about the African community. So, and then we're eager to learn so much and have questions about it later. Okay? Thank you.
I hope I will have enough knowledge to answer your questions. But anyway, my name is Elias Asef. I was graduated in history at the university. I almost did my master's degree in social and political studies. But since my childhood, I was very interested in the African heritage in Cuba. But anyway, I was born here in this neighborhood, Cayo Hueso, and we are touched by this tradition in different ways. I always remember when I was at the primary school, I always had problems with my teachers. I was a very bad student, and my mother, that she was Catholic, she sent me to see one of the santeros, a priest of Santeria. And he advised me to take a piece of paper, to write down their names, over their names, my name, and then I had to place that piece of paper inside of the cooler part of the refrigerator in order to neutralize, to freeze the bad energy from them. Of course, all of my teachers are still inside there, of course. And that's the way we use Santeria in Cuba. These traditions are very popular. Is an indispensable part of our identity. Remember that during the Atlantic slave trade were brought here to Cuba between 15th century and 19th century, around 1,300,000 Africans working here in the New World as slaves. And as a result, we are still practicing in Cuba 4 religions with African roots. The most popular is going to be identified with the name Santeria. Santeria is described as a mixture between Catholicism and African religion from Nigeria. We have another religion, Arara. Arara, that came from Benin, has its origins in Benin, what is today identified as the Benin. We have Reglas de Palomonte from Congo, and that's, Congo, central part of Africa, Reglas de Palomonte, and the Secret Society Abacua. That's a male mutual aid society. And we practice all of them together, even though we mix them with different other spiritual tendencies. First of all, with Catholicism, because remember the slaves were forced to adopt symbols of Catholicism to be allowed to practice in public. And at the same time, they are mixed with different other spiritual tendencies like Spiritism, or nowadays with religions of the New Age. But these traditions are animistic, naturalistic. They worship the ancestors and they do practice magic. That's very important. Intellectuals describe this magic as sympathetic magic. They believe in the law of like produces like, the law of similarity. I will give you an example. When this is a very famous recipe for women. When you have a problem with your husband or your boyfriend or whatever, they advise you to take a piece of paper to write down his name, over his name, your name, and then you have to spread honey to sweeten your husband, to sweeten your relationship. And then you have to invoke Oshun, goddess of love, river, sensuality, because Oshun uses honey in order to ensnare men. That's why I say that Santeria is just a way to be in communion with natural forces, using natural elements to achieve some end. to solve a specific problem. And they believe as well in the law of contact. It says that two objects that has been in contact with each other are always in contact. They maintain that relationship, that energetical relationship, even though that physical contact has been broken. That is very useful when someone is sick at the hospital, and that person needs a specific magic work, but you are not allowed to get inside the hospital. Well, in Cuba, in some hospitals, you're allowed to do it, but not in all of them. And then what they do is that they take something that was in contact with that person, they do the magic work, and the result is going to be back to that person. I have seen a lot of people almost dead nowadays being saved using this kind of magic. They work with the telluric energy, with the energy from Earth. And these traditions are very important in Cuba. They are described as witchcraft, black magic, something negative, but however is an indispensable part of our identity. It has influenced our behavior, our music, our dancing, our way of being, everything. And we are touched by Santeria and these religions with African roots in different ways. This park, for instance, is the park that most represents the African heritage in this neighborhood. Before, until 1992, even after, when was declared the free exercise of religion, because before was almost prohibited to be a member of the communist institution and being practitioner of any kind of religion. It was not until 1992 when was declared the free exercise of religion, and the religions were not questioned by the government. Now there is a big boom with the Christianity and whatever, the Pope, but before, a lot of people lost their membership of the communist institution because they were religious. And a lot of people lost the opportunity to get inside the University of Havana because they were religious. I have heard and I have lived some of the experiences
Racial
about that.
prejudice.
Not so cruel as in other countries, non-institutionalized. We have no segregation, but we still have that racist mind. Not so cruel and not a lot of violence manifestation about that, but we still have it. And Cuban black history is not taught as it deserves. If you ask people, universitarian, or people normal in the street about Cuban black heroes or Cuban black histories, they are not going to answer you easily. But we are in front of one of the few monuments dedicated to a black hero in Cuba. This is dedicated to Quintín Banderas, a very brave general that was very important in our independence war. He was a member of the secret society Abacua that is not taught at the history books, but he was a member of the secret society Abacua, and a male mutual aid society, regarded as a very violent set, because to be a member of this association you have to prove that you're a real man. And this principle has been misunderstood for several members, and they have committed actions of violence. But indeed, that's not the essence of this tradition, the essence of this tradition. We have to be proud of having them here, because sub-Sahara of Africa is the only country where you could see this culture is still alive, and their members played a very important role in our independence war. The secret society of Abacua that is practiced just in Matanzas and Havana. And it's the only Afro-Cuban religion or Cuban religion with African roots that we haven't exported to the United States of America or another countries, just in Cuba. And Quintín Banderas was a member of this association. He was killed in 1906 by his white fellows, generals as well. And at least we have this monument here. And in front of this park, we have here the Palace of Rumba. The Palace of Rumba, well, Rumba, you know. Rumba is the most rhythmically sophisticated, non-cigarette music here in Cuba. The African soul of Cuban music is a complex of drums, drive-in dances that includes Columbia, Jambu, and Guaguancó. Rumba has influenced a lot our national music, has influenced a lot even music in the United States of America. Maybe you remember Shano Pozo, the one who introduced congas into Dizzy Gillespie band, and some others like Antonio Bauza that they created the Latin jazz and whatever. But we had to wait more than 50 years to declare rumba as a national heritage. It was just 3 or 4 years ago, and we had to wait more than 50 years to have a place where you could listen to just rumba. But anyway, on weekends you could come back here to listen this kind of music. Now we are going to do a kind of pilgrimage. We are going to visit houses of people who practice this tradition. It's not easy for tourists to visit them sometimes. But the first step into this tradition is having a consultation and a spiritual seeking in order to know the spiritual source of your problem and the spiritual force that you need to invoke in order to achieve some end. And you have to go to the priests and priestesses to receive a consultation, because they have to tell you about your problems. And most of the people who go to Santeria is because they have a problem to solve. We are going to visit first the house of a palero, a priest of Reglas de Palomonte, and then we are going to visit the house of a santero, a priest of Santeria. Follow me here. Well, first of all, let me introduce you Abel. Abel is a friend of mine. He's a palero, very handsome. Negrito de la Caridad del Cobre aquí. Very handsome. Muñeco. Muñeco is a friend of mine for a long time. He is one of my godfather into this tradition. But besides that, he is a practitioner of Santeria and Catholic. You see the symbols of Catholicism here. He is a priest of Palomonte. First of all, Palomonte is a Cuban religion of Bantu Congo origin, derived from the Bakongo slaves from the central part of Africa. Reglas de Palomonte is the oldest religion with African roots. In this religion, the forest is alive. Nature is the main temple. And they believe in the spirit of nature. At the same time, they believe in just one supreme being, just one spirit, that is so-called Sambi. But we are part of Sambi, and Sambi is part of us. That main energy controls everything. And they believe as well, the main energy, Sambi, the deity, the supreme being, created nature and humanity. And they worship the spirits of nature. But the center of the worship in this tradition is the spirit of the dead. They believe that the material body, or the human body, is divided into the material body or biological body and the spiritual body. But the spiritual body is divided into different shadows, that there is one of them that after the material body dies is still tied to the human bones, and it has the skill to be amongst the humanity and amongst the spirits. What they do is that they make a pact with that spirit. They don't kill anyone to get the spirit. They make a pact with deceased spirits, and they promise them food, offerings, elements that they enjoyed when they were embodied in the material body. But what is more important, they promise them a receptacle, a place, a house where that spirit could be materialized. That is the role of the Nganga. The Nganga is the main receptacle, the center of all of the energies in these traditions. Then Nganga is a magic receptacle, a magic pot where it is gathered the energy of the natural forces embodied in natural elements and the energy of the spirit of the dead embodied in human remains. Here we have two very important elements. The empungus, so-called empungus. Those are spirits from nature. In each receptacle we have a specific empungu. Those natural elements that you see in those receptacles invoke one specific empungu. But the empungu gives power, the spirit of the dead that live in those receptacles as well embodied in the human remains. One receptacle is embodied with just one spirit and one empungu. It's a combination between nature and humanity. Paleros are always facing death. That's why in Cuba we don't believe in those horror films like in the United States of America, where the spirit is taking care of you, bothering you. If we have one spirit like that, we get them and we bring it here. We have a palero. When we have that kind of problems in our house, we don't call Catholic priest. We call espiritistas or paleros to get away those spirits. We don't believe in demons. And here we have different receptacles. They have different communications between the spirits and the palero. They use different kind of oracle. One of them, the conch shell. Another one, the glass of water, the cigars, and there is one important oracle in this tradition, the empaca. Empaca is the empaca is a magic receptacle. Is a horn of gold with a magic charge inside and a reflective surface. It is used to invoke the energy that live in those nganga, to talk to people, to talk to the palero, and to know the past, present, and future of a person. But what is more important, what is your problem and the solution for your problem. A great palero is the one that tells you about your problem. You don't have to tell them. Here we have dolls that they represent spirits that are inside of those receptacles. They are very famous because their diagnostic skill and herbal treatments. They have a special treatment for different kind of cancers, different kind of diseases, problems, and they cure the material body and the spiritual body. They prepare different substances that sometimes you have to drink. Tested awful, but they are very good. And they have as well a lot of followers. A lot of people practice this religion, but this religion has been hidden under different other tendencies, under Santeria, because most of the people who practice Santeria practice as well Reglas de Palo Monte, and sometimes Reglas de Palo Monte has been treated as a threat because it's supposed that paleros work with the evil. But indeed we don't believe in evil or God. We believe in constructive properties of nature and destructive properties of nature. Being in balance with them, you could solve your problem. We have in Cuba 5 branches of Reglas de Palo Monte. Reglas de Palo Monte Mayombe, Reglas de Palo Monte Quimbisa, el Santo Cristo, el Buen Viaje, Reglas de Palo Monte Brillumba, Reglas de Palo Monte Chamalongo, and Reglas de Palo Monte Changani. And the Nganga is divided into 2 kinds of Nganga. The Christian one, because as a result of the syncretism with Catholicism, that a lot of paleros that use symbols of Catholicism in their shrine. You see here a crucifix. It's supposed that this nganga is for good things, for positive things. And there is another kind of nganga, so-called nganga Judía, Jewish. Not because Jewish are bad people, it's because in Cuba, if you are Jewish, it's because you are not baptized by the Catholic Church. And it's supposed that the Jewish one works with the destructive properties of nature, with the evil in Western culture. But when you are initiated into this tradition in both nganga Judía or nganga Cristiana, you have to make a pact with both properties of nature, constructive and destructive. But they say that these religions do black magic, witchcraft. But if you come here to solve a specific problem, maybe it's bad for another person, but it's good for you. That is dependent on the color that you see things. Okay, this has been just the A of the ABC in Santeria. In Palo Monte is a very complex religion. Sometimes it is less expensive than Santeria because in all of this tradition, I will tell you a little bit more about that. In this religion, you have to fee the paleros. Sometimes the fee is not so good to live or to depend on this tradition as well, but you have to pay them for their services, because once you are initiated into Santeria, you became into Palo Monte, you became in a servant for the spirit and in the servant for the community that you belong to, because he belongs to a family of this tradition. Any question? But indeed the Pope has nothing to do with this tradition. Indeed, most of the Catholic authorities here don't accept these traditions, or they treat this tradition as black magic, something. There are some of them yes, some of them not. Yeah, here he says that in this religion they pray as well in a Catholic way, because it is mixed. In my opinion, we still have our mind colonized, and we still use elements of Catholicism, but indeed it's nothing to do Catholicism with this tradition, that these traditions are tribal religions.
I wasn't sure I understood something you said. I thought you said that the Calero will solve your problem, will help you, but might harm someone else. Could you clarify that?
Yes, sometimes that so first of all I have to tell you that this tradition provides justice. Before he do a specific magic work, they have to ask the spirit, and they have to ask the spiritual entities. If they say that you are allowed to do it, it's because it is providing justice. Maybe there is somebody that is bothering you all the time, and you come here to solve your problem. If they say so, they could do a specific work that I don't think, well, there are sometimes that people has been harmed by some paleros, because but in this philosophy is because they deserve it.
They believe that
Let me tell you something. I have a theory before you ask about your question. I have a theory about this. Remember that these people, Africans, faced a very strong nature in Africa, and they developed a way to survive, to solve problems, a way to face nature. When they were brought to the New World, they developed what I call self-defense religions. Remember that they were forced to work. They were precluded. They were unrooted. And then they developed a religion to defend themselves. Sometimes to defend themselves, they had to kill their masters. And they prepare substances to do that. Even nowadays, we use this religion to defend ourselves. Even this, we use this religion to face our shortages. In Cuba, during the 90s, we survived to a very cruel period of time, a euphemistically so-called special period. But this religion helped a lot of people to face that period of time. And then in this tradition, black people had a lot of problems, and a lot of other people tried to pushing them. They developed a religion to defend themselves. Harming anyone is questioned sometimes.
How much payment is involved?
It depends on your problem, depends on the priest, depends on a lot of things.
My question was, he works with the spirits of the dead.
Of the dead.
And I'm wondering what the philosophy is about where those spirits reside. How do they manifest? How do they reside?
Yes, after you die, the material body die. Well, they get the bones and they ask the spirit to come here with them and to be part of this tradition. If they accept, they do it. But after you die, they believe in the law of reincarnation. You could join to the Supreme Being, or you could reincarnate, but they ask what you want to do to the spirits. The spirits that are here is because they accepted the pact made with the Palero.
I don't want to take all the questions, but is there a pattern of which spirits are valued? I know in some traditions, the only people who are viewed as ancestors are the powerful figures when they were alive, primarily male.
Well, at the beginning of this tradition in Cuba, they used black spirits because they had the experience, Congo spirits. They were very strong using in this kind of religion. But even nowadays, life is changing, and they use different kind of spirits. I have seen an Nganga with a Chinese spirit. I have seen an Nganga with a Jewish spirit, and so on.
So these are actually, these are not the direct ancestors of the individual. I mean, if I come in, I'm not asking for help from my grandfather. This is a spirit who's like a deity.
The spirit is like the spiritual entity that is going to solve your problem, if he is allowed to do it. Sometimes you don't find your solution neither here or other religion. When I first approached to a Palero was because I had a problem with my first girlfriend, and then I wanted to be tied to her, but the Palero, one of the Palero, told me that it's better not to do that, because otherwise would be another problem. Any other question? Then take 5 minutes with Abel by yourself. Rita is going to translate. Take a picture with him. He has his daughter. He's proud of his daughter. He's over here. He has a daughter, and she is going to be a very good priestess as well. Women, I forgot to tell you about the role of the women in this tradition. Women are allowed to be initiated into this tradition, reglas de Palo Monte, but they're not allowed to reach the high position to be an owner of the Nganga after they finish the menstruation, the menopause period. Okay, enjoy the place. I will wait for you outside. The most accurate moniker for this religion is Regla de Ocha y Fa. Regla de Ocha y Fa refers transformation, reformation, even reinvention of the Yoruba tradition here in Cuba, because Santeria has its origins amongst the Yoruba priests and priestesses of the Orishas, who were enslaved at the close of the 18th century and the first decades of 18th century and the first decades of the 19th century. Both in slavery and later when free, the Yoruba in Cuba and their descendants maintained a number of African religious practices by developing complex parallelisms amongst their Yoruba ancestry, the other African traditions that have been brought to Cuba before, and the Spanish folk Catholicism that was the official religion of the island. And they were forced to adopt symbols of Catholicism in order to be allowed to practice in public. These traditions were allowed to be saved because the Spanish created in Cuba social organizations that was not possible in the United States of America. It was possible here in Cuba and in Brazil and some other places. Social organizations where slaves from one specific nation gathered up, and that was like a mutual aid society, and they maintained their traditions, they preserved their traditions, but at the same time they were forced to maintain their traditions behind the Catholic veil. And that's why we still identify African deities behind Catholic saints, and we still find elements of Catholicism like the crucifix and some Catholic saints that we're going to see over there. We still maintain these elements in the house of Santeria. Indeed, the center of the worship in these traditions are the orishas. Orishas are natural forces, personal spiritual beings that empower all life. Orishas, the most accurate definition for this word, orisha, means that ori means head, sha, God that lives in your head. That means that you have your own energy. That energy is in communion with one natural force that is your God, your orisha, that you have to be in balance in order to fulfill your destiny that has been given by the God Almighty, because they do believe in one supreme being who created mankind, earth, and then he got retired and he left on earth the orishas to maintain the order. Indeed, in this tradition, in Santeria, in the case of Santeria, we have to be in communion with natural forces, orishas. We are a daughter or a son of one specific orisha. And after you identify your orisha, you could be part of a spiritual family that they maintain alive the energy of that orisha. That energy is so-called ashe. Ashe is a very important concept in this tradition. Ashe is a life force present in nature. Ashe, A-C-H-E. Ashe is what we invoke in a ceremony of Santeria to save people. Regla de Osha y Fa, Regla de Osha y Fa or Santeria, means that we have two paths of initiation. The path of the orishas. Orishas that were brought here to Cuba with a slave from Nigeria, and it's supposed that from Nigeria were brought here around 200 orishas. But most of the secrets were lost with the slaves. And nowadays, we maintain around 16 orishas survived. And we gather up in just one liturgical corpus all of the worship of those orishas. That's why in the house of Santeria, you see the shrine, or you worship all of the orishas together. In Africa, one orisha was linked to one specific area. In Cuba, it's different. We gather up all of the orishas, and in one house you worship all together. The initiation in the mystery of one orisha is being in communion with your specific orisha. What is the initiation into Santeria? Is receiving the energy of the orishas in your head. In a ceremony of around 7 days. They have different ceremonies, but this is one of the most important. In a ceremony of around 7 days, with around 20 santeras participating, you are going to receive the energy of your orisha in your head. After that ceremony, after you receive the energy of the orisha in your head, the ashe of your orisha in your head, you become in Iyawo. Iyawo means bride or junior wife of the Orishas. And for 1 year, you are going to abide by different rules of behavior to deserve that energy in your head. One of them is dressed all in white. White in white color for 1 year. White in white color because white color is a symbol of life after death. It's a symbol of the spiritual world. White color because it's a symbol of purification, and you have to purify your body to deserve that energy in your head, in your body, to be in communion with that energy. You have to abide by different rules of behavior. Another one is you are not allowed to shake hands. You are not allowed to be photographed before 3 months. And you are not allowed to get out of your house after 6 p.m. You are not allowed to, well, in some very strict houses of Santeria, you are not allowed to have sexual relationship for 3 months. But we are very hot here in Cuba, impossible to abide by that rule. That's why they had to be more flexible. But anyway, after you finish that period of time, then you become in Santero or Santera, Babalosha for men, Iyalosha for women. And you will have the skill to transmit that energy onto others and to create your own spiritual family. But this is the path of the Orishas, where you worship out of the Orishas and you are initiated in the mystery of one Orisha. But there is another path of initiation, the path of knowledge, the oracle of Ifa. That's why this tradition is so called Regla de Osha, Ifa. People describe this tradition, Santeria is just a mixture between Catholicism and African religion from Nigeria. But it's not like that. It's very complicated, magical religious system. Ifa is an oracle. It's what I identify as a digital oracle because they use the binary system, zeros and one, before the computers to identify the destiny of people. And in the oracle of Ifa, they have one Orisha who guides that oracle, Orula, who was an Orisha of creation. And he made a pact with death. If you are initiated into the mystery of Ifa, besides the mystery of the Orishas, you are going to receive a symbol of this oracle, a bracelet in green and yellow, like this one. Besides the bracelet of his Orisha, red and black and white, Shango, he receives another bracelet, green and yellow. It means that he is initiated as well in the mystery of the oracle of Ifa. If you wear that symbol, you are going to be protected by Orula, and you are not going to die until it is your time. And the readers, the most important priests in this tradition, so-called Babalaos. Baba means father, Awo secrets, the father of the secrets, are very famous because they borrow time from death. Babalaos are nowadays the most important priests into this tradition. Before, these two paths of initiation were practiced separated, but nowadays they are together. Okay, I think I have been talking to you for 35 minutes about something. Any question? You can take pictures here, no problem.